these sessions. So if you have colleagues that can benefit from what you hear this morning, you can share it with them. It'll be on our YouTube channel and you'll get a follow-up email with that recording in it. Tim also has a lot of content today, and so we know that you guys are busy people leading in your areas of expertise, and you've sacrificed an hour to be with us today to learn. And he has a lot of content for us to learn. So again, that recording can be helpful. So you don't feel like you have to consume all of it in one sitting. It'll be available for you to go back and visit and get more details if needed. I'm going to quickly introduce Tim to you all. Tim Jackson brings over 20 years of nonprofit leadership experience to us today. He has been the CEO of two United Way organizations where he drove 300% growth. With firsthand knowledge of the challenges that nonprofits face, limited resources, heavy administrative demands, and the need for sustainable growth, Tim launched Tailwind to provide expert consulting paired with innovative AI-driven solutions. His mission is to help nonprofits be early adopters in leveraging AI to automate tedious tasks and to free up precious staff time to achieve greater community impact. He's based out of Ogden, Utah, and he enjoys life on a small hobby farm with his wife and 4 children. So welcome, Tim.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you all for taking time to attend this session. And yeah, I do have quite a bit of content, but I think it's pretty clear. It's just, really to learn some of this functionality, we need to dig in a bit. And what I want to do is show, not tell. A lot of the early AI presentations I participated in, there was a lot of, it can do this, it can do this, like you should do this, but not actually getting in it and working with it. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look at a number of use cases and we're going to see some of its capabilities. Again, it's still an hour, so we can only do so much. But let's go ahead and get started. I guess I didn't advance the slides. Um, so yeah, that's a picture of me. You can see me on the screen.
Tim, I'm not seeing the slides.
Oh, you're not?
No.
You're not seeing the slides. Okay. Let's try one more time. Okay, share desktop.
There you go. Woohoo.
Okay, so we didn't see any slides then. Okay, so the mission of Idaho Partners for Good, just for you to quickly review there. A beautiful mission and vision. I really like both statements. Um, and then that's a picture of me. And now let's go ahead and get started. So in terms of what we're going to cover today, we're going to do some prompting best practices, but it's going to be pretty quick. I think most of you are probably familiar with many of these, and so we're just going to touch on them briefly. And then we're going to start building custom GPTs. That's really what we're here to do today. And then we'll take some questions and answers at the end. So I wanted to start out with this quote from Ethan Mollick, who wrote an AI book called Co-Intelligence. And he says, there's no definitive guide on how to use AI in your organization. We're all experimenting. Another quote he said was, the AI that you're using now is the slowest AI you'll ever use. Like, it's rapidly evolving. It's technology that's different from any software we've ever used. It has infinite, uses. And so we have to learn to think in a new way as we interact with this very different software. And we need to experiment and we need to be gaining additional understanding of it as it advances if we're going to be in a position to be an early adopter and to maximize leveraging it for good. That's why we're all here today, is to leverage it for good. Obviously, security, privacy are things that we have to pay a lot of attention to. We're not going to speak a lot to those today, although I do have some documents I can send you after the webinar. Um, so I'm going to just take a really quick poll. I'd love to see in the chat, just really quickly. You don't have to have a ChatGPT Plus account for this to be useful. I mean, to build custom GPTs, you do need the paid account, but to be able to use them, you don't. Other people can share them with you, but I just like to know how many people have one or are considering getting one. There's a lot of different tools out there. ChatGPT has a ton of functionality and happens to be my favorite that I've found so many uses for. And also, have you done any creating of GPTs? Okay, it's just fun to see the answers kind of pop up. I guess you guys can probably see those on the chat. There's some yeses, yes, and kind of, not yet. So thinking about it, investing in a paid account this year. So hopefully this will help you get a sense as to whether or not not yet means yes, I'd like to move forward. Um, just help you to get a better sense of what you're looking to do. Also, Benjamin, I know you said you use Copilot. I do have some specifics I can show on how to keep this secure. I know that that's something that's a concern, but thanks for sharing those. So um, now let's talk a little bit about use cases. There's a lot on this slide. It's the busiest slide of the whole deck. And I'm going to revisit these things. So it's just the first time you're going to get your eyes on it. Human resources is an area where there's a number of use cases, whether it's analyzing bids, retrieving information from a handbook, creating interview questions for a new hire, doing candidate screening, something you have to be very careful how you use it, doing policy retrieval. There are more. Communications, drafting success stories, doing various engagement, activities from social media to blogs to press releases to newsletters, um, marketing plan development, copy editor, fundraising, creating letters of inquiry, doing grant writing, grant reporting, donor engagement. I have a more comprehensive list on my website if you want to check it out. This is a pretty long list as it is, and there's more, domains outside of these, obviously, that it also can support with. And we're going to look at some in each of these categories. So now, just some prompting best practices. It's always best to assign a persona. We'll talk a little bit about that and provide guardrails. You're only going to get out of it what you put in, right, in terms of being clear about what you need and what you're asking for. So provide guardrails. If you use examples, the AI can then model after those, break up complex tasks, and ask AI for help. It can be something that you brainstorm with if you're not quite sure what to do, then ask. And then refine and iterate. It's not ever going to give you the perfect answer the first time, but is very easy to iterate with. So in terms of personas, in the photo, there's so many different roles that you could be wanting support with and how you're interacting with AI, whether it's an expert grant writer or somebody over communications, an HR professional. You tell it what to focus on so that it knows, basically what information to use and how to approach the challenge. And then also clarifying what you want it to do. What is your goal? And then in terms of guardrails, these are just, again, some good best practices to like increase your familiarity with. You don't have to do all of them all the time, but defining boundaries, setting expectations, again, examples, defining your audience, manageable steps. There's a little duplication there, but they're just things to get familiar with. And then, you look at what it creates, and then you refine. And in the custom GPTs, you can build in those refinements for future prompts. And so you don't like something, you fix it for good. And then you test different ways of doing things, which there are a number of different ways you can approach how you build things within it. You'll see a little bit of that in my presentation. And then reuse what you do that's really well. That's what custom GPTs are for, is you build something that you can reuse. You're not just prompting. So here's a comparison from like using ChatGPT just generally across the top. Um, it has broad knowledge and it's LLM, massive amounts of knowledge, and it can create some great stuff, don't get me wrong, but there's more potential for error and you need to do more iterations to get the product you're looking for. Where with the custom ChatGPT, you're training it on your content, and so you get more authentic, precise, and like reusable content. It doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, right? But it can be significantly better if you do some work on the front end within ChatGPT. When you go there, there's it bounced. There is a GPT store, and there's hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of GPTs that people have built that are public. I just thought I'd mention a few of these. These are a few that I've used that I've found value in terms of finding scholarly research or analyzing data or doing some social media work that does the visual piece with it. And so those are a few that you could look at. It's a fun store to explore as you're looking for things that other people have created. Um, but now we're going to get into actually creating GPTs. And so these are the three things I really want to hit home, and you'll hear this throughout. But in a custom GPT, you give it instructions and you include the persona, the purpose, the tone, the focus. Like you give it very clear instructions as to what its role is, what it's there to help you do. And then you can give it information that it can use to mine the information that you're wanting. Instead of going out to the large language model, you have a boilerplate or a template or some stories that you want it to use that can help guide its response. You can upload those. And then you test and refine. It's just something that, you can oftentimes create these quite quickly and they'll meet really quite a few needs. That's what I've done today, as I've done ones that just in the essence of time are quite quick, but with further iterations, they produce better results, and you can bake that in. So these are the same human resource use cases that I shared on that really busy slide, and I'm prepared to actually go over two of them. I wish we could go through all of them, but I'm going to go through the employee handbook retrieval, GPT creation, and then a bid or proposal analysis. And so we're going to just jump in. I did pre-record these because I was worried about any technological glitches, and I just wanted it to run smoothly. If we get short on time, I might speed a couple of them up, but I have to upload them separately from this PowerPoint. So we're going to jump into the bid or proposal analysis GPT. If you have questions in the slide deck, I can pause it. I'll be watching it. Yeah, if you have questions in the chat, I'd be happy to entertain those and just pause it. So we're going to go ahead and get started with creating the first GPT. This one's a more simple one. GPT to help us to review bids or proposals. We want to compare and contrast them, and it'd be really nice to have some help in the process. So let's create a GPT. And I'm going to put in some instruction for it. I got quite a bit of instruction I'm going to do here all in one felt swoop. Design a GPT model tailored for contract analysis capable of reviewing, comparing, and contrasting multiple bids or proposals. Examples include auditing firm proposals for a new auditor, contract or bids for services, provide a detailed analysis, and rank the proposals. Great. I'm going to say you are an expert contract analyst. Okay, so now it's creating in the GPT the instructions based on what I've given it. I could have done that in multiple prompts, but I did it all in one felt swoop. Proposal Insights is a good name. Sure. Okay, now it's going to create a profile picture. We're just going to accept. Looks good. That's fine. And now we're ready to, it's ready. It's got, it's got instructions built in, but we're going to give it a little bit more information. I, again, only want it to explicitly access the information I upload the bids. Nothing from its LLM, and thoroughly review them before responding. So include that in the instructions. Okay, let's check out the configuration, see if we want to edit it. You're an expert contract analysis skill in evaluating, comparing, and contrasting proposals, contracts, and bids. Your primary goal is to assist users in analyzing, identifying strengths and weaknesses. We don't need to ensure compliance with relevant standards and ranking them. Provide clear, structured feedback, summaries, be concise. offer clarification if anything's ambiguous, avoid jargon, only provide LLM. That's a little bit longer and more detailed than I really need it, but it hits everything. So we're not giving it a knowledge base. We're just so those instructions are generated by me interacting with the other tab, the create tab. You just basically have a conversation um, with the AI, and then it uses that information to build the instructions that the GPT will then follow. It's going to go straight to creating it. This is a very simple one. And now that we've got it created, we can interact with it. So I don't have any, auditor bids or specific proposals. So you can see this looks like when you're in normal ChatGPT, right? But it's the Proposal Insights GPT. So it's been built. And so if you have the Plus account, you just have the option, here on the left screen, you see Explore GPTs. You click where those four dots are, and that's where you click that you want to build one. And then once it's built, it's saved in a list that you have that you can access of all your GPTs. And so you can prompt them, or you can prompt just the general large language model, depending on what it is that you're trying to present. That would be super relevant to you guys. So I'm going to just use something that I've got readily available, which is I'm getting a new roof on my house. And I just had 3 bids done. And oh yeah, I'm going to show you what one of those bids looks like really quick. Sorry guys, that was the best example I had for bids. So you get to learn all about the fact that I'm getting a new roof. So this is the bid, it's 5 pages long. It goes into detail on what's involved in putting on a new roof and what the warranty information is, and some extras and miscellaneous, and then lots of legalese, terms and conditions about how they work. So that's what kind of the bids entail. And we're just going to go ahead and upload all 3 of these bids. Give it a second to upload and say, please analyze these bids. Analyze these bids for me. Very little prompting because it's got its instructions, which I can use for any number of different uses. And it's telling me High North, has cost of $16,500. This is their scope of work, good warranty. They include cleanup. MW is $18,500, but there's optional additional costs. No upfront payment. Okay, they both sound pretty good, but I like the cheaper one. Kanga it charges extra for the second layer. You pay at the end. Have to act quickly. Here's a nice little side-by-side comparison so I can see the cost. There's no information here. Comprehensive, limited. So I think I'm going to eliminate Kanga probably, but let's see what it says as far as recommendations. Do I have further assistance that I require? I'm going to just tell it what's most important to me. I do want them to be professional. I do care about the price. And I do want a good warranty. So just give me a rank order, but modifying it based on that. Rank order, High North Roofing is coming in first again. Strong professionalism, exceptional warranties, best price, making it a top choice. Second best, but higher price and less competitive when warranty. So it doesn't have as good a warranty and it costs more, and you have to pay for extras. Kanga, comparable, lack of detail on warranties. I definitely said I want a warranty. I don't want to pay $20,000. So it looks like I'm going to go with High North Roofing. But again, I would review the contracts, but they're just long, and this gives me just a very simple, easy way to start to assess them, and it could have a lot of different use cases. So a good example. Okay, guys, we made it through the first one. That's the only one where my example is not specific to nonprofit work, but it still illustrates it for you. I also want to say that, in my opinion, these just get better and better as we go through the five of them. The last two are around grant writing, and that's where you start to see more and more of its power. And so I hope that you kind of see more and more, augmented as we go through them. This next one is also a more basic one, and it's around making employee handbook information very available to your employees. And I think for the last two, I probably put them on at 1.25 speed, but for now we're gonna go at this speed because I have to pull the video from another spot. Okay, let's create a GPT to help employees navigate the employee handbook. It's 43 pages long, and we want to make it easy for them to query it and get support. So let's go to create and interact with the AI. I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste some prompts to get it all set up. I want to create a custom GPT to help Agave employees quickly query our employee handbook. And Agave is a made-up organization that I'm using for just showing these things to you guys. And yeah, so you'll see agave a few different times. It's based in New Mexico. It's not real, and the data is not real, but it gives you good illustration without using any sensitive information. Okay, let's name is fine. Create name. Give me a profile picture of a handbook. That's the next step. So we'll just kind of speed it. And these are always the first two steps whenever you create a GPT. You click create, it picks a name, it wants to do a photo. It just, after a while, it takes, a couple minutes. You just want to kind of accelerate through and get to the building part. Up a little bit by telling it what we want. Great. Okay, now it says it's set up and ready to go, but we want a little bit more information put in there. So I want it to only use the handbook as its knowledge base and not draw on the LLM. And I want it to direct people to HR if there's not enough information. So let's include that in the instructions. Okay, so let's look at the instructions. It's designed to assist employees. It retrieves information, but only provides information explicitly included. It thoroughly reviews the handbook before responding, directs people to HR, no outside information, maintains professional yet approachable tone. We like that. Aligning with the culture of openness and support. Does not provide legal advice. Okay, good. Let's get rid of the conversation starters, and let's go ahead and upload the handbook. I'm just going to show you. And just really quick, conversation starters, those would appear underneath where it says Agave Handbook Assistant if you had specific things that you thought users were likely going to want to use it for. They're kind of just ideas, suggestions for them to click on, or maybe very specific things that you want to be used for. But in most of these videos, I've just opted not to use them. The handbook really quick so that you can see the handbook I'm uploading. It's 43 pages long, and it has select policies, work rules, compensation, benefits, a lot of details, right? So that's what we're going to upload. So let's slide this back over and upload that file. I did not use the knowledge base in the last one, right? When I uploaded the 3 roofing bids, that was once the GPT was already created, that I had files that I wanted it to analyze. In this case, I'm taking the employee handbook and I'm baking it in to the way this is designed. So it has instructions and it has knowledge. And those instructions review the knowledge and then give it more information to be able to generate better responses. And then we can create the GPT and start to interact with it. And I'm going to just do a few kind of common queries that we might anticipate. So let's create the GPT so that we can send the link to our staff. They don't need a paid account. You can see that you can just save it for yourself. It can be anyone with the link can use it, or you can share it to the store for anybody to be able to use. If you do click anyone with the link, you can forward that link literally to anyone that has a ChatGPT account. It doesn't have to be a Plus account, and they can interact with the custom GPT that you've built. To use the link so they can interact with it as much as they'd like. I just need the link. And now we're going to view it and we're going to interact with it. Okay, so let's say I'm a new employee and I'm sick and I don't know how to let them know, my employer know. It looks like I'm supposed to contact my supervisor. That makes sense. And if I have questions, I can contact Jen. So I'm gonna draft an email to Steve. I'm just gonna have it do this. It's not really what it's built for, but I've got the flu. My son's sick, and I plan to be in on Monday. Hey, Steve, want to let you know I've come down with flu. Won't be in for the rest of the week. I've got a virtual employment. I plan to be back Monday. If I feel better, please text me. Thank you for understanding. All right, that's good. That's helpful. Now, this is a little bit more serious case. I've got a coworker that's treating me unkindly. What does the handbook say? Oops, I got ahead of it. That's the email that we just sent to Steve. This is a new prompt. Oh, actually, it already answered it. There we go. Sorry. So it has standards of content, conduct, anti-harassment, problem resolution, retaliation. He's not retaliating against me, and it doesn't escalate to harassment. It's none of those specific things, but he's clearly breaking the employee conduct because he's not treating me with courtesy and respect. So it sounds like it violates that. I want to again ask Steve. I want to ask Steve for a meeting to see if he can help me. It's Jonathan. He's being rude and demeaning. So again, it's not designed. It's designed to give you content from the handbook, but I'm just also having it help me with some correspondences. Hi, Steve. I hope this email finds you well. I'd like to request a meeting with you at the earliest convenience to discuss a workplace concern. I've been experiencing some challenges in my interactions with Jonathan as his behavior has been consistently rude and demeaning towards me. I believe addressing this will foster a better work environment. I feel most comfortable discussing directly with you. That's great. So I didn't tell it I was moving on to a new prompt, so it's like still telling me about the illness. It's got those two. So I'm going to say, now I have. Okay, I think I'm going to stop that video because I have a third example. Um, but I don't think, oops. I think just in the interest of time, two examples is probably enough on the employee handbook. It's basically using the AI functionality, right? A custom GPT to be able to interact with a large data set, in this case, the handbook, in a very easy way, kind of like a chatbot would, right? To just query it and get useful information because it's a heavy document and it can help you be able to understand and even interpret, right? Like in that scenario where she wasn't quite sure about Jonathan and the way he was treating her, it quickly pulled a few relevant sections and it helped her realize like, okay, this is how it fits and this is kind of the next step I'm going to take. So now we're going to jump to, and I haven't seen any activity in the chat. So if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to chime in. As far as communications use cases, again, these were on a previous slide, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you guys how to build a success story builder, right? Success stories, well, I won't start telling you what's going to be in the GPT, but actually, I think in this case, I'm going to end the slideshow and I'm going to share, stop sharing, and I'm going to pull open the same document over here on my screen so that I can speed it up a little bit. Okay. So we've got the success story. Oh, I'm still sharing. I'm going to open it up and then it'll just save a little bit of time. And okay, we got desktop, optimize, audio, and we're go again, but this time we're gonna, I don't know if we can do 1.5. We could try. Is that too fast? What do you guys think? A GPT to develop success stories. So go to create GPT. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the create and interact with the AI. I've got some pre-populated prompts that I'm going to plug in just for keeping us on time. A lot of times we don't have time to do success stories because it can be pretty tedious. So this is going to make it easier. I want to create a GPT to help me take interviews that are done by the communication manager at Agave with an Agave staff member and turn them into brief, compelling success stories. What easier way than interviewing somebody and taking the transcription and turning that into a success story? That seems like a great use of time. So let's see if it can help us generate that. It's going to suggest a name and we'll accept that. That's fine, just to kind of keep it moving. Now it's going to propose a picture, which we'll also accept, and then keep putting more prompts in. Again, there's a lot of different ways this could be structured, but I thought, like I mentioned, that a really clean way of doing it would be to put transcriptions of interviews in. So this works. And we're going to upload some sample success stories to help it out, but first we're going to train it. So it's ready to go, but I want to train it a little bit. So we're going to say, what are some best practices for success stories? So it'll give us some ideas. And it's going to give us a whole bunch of ideas. We want to keep this pretty simple, so I'm not going to go through all of them. Start with a compelling hook, show, don't tell, be authentic. Okay, there's great ideas. This is what I'm going to tell it. I'm going to say these are intended to be personal stories. That's the kind of success stories we're looking at. From the ideas you've suggested, I would like you to implement the following. Please start with a hook, follow a narrative arc, keep concise, personalize, and use quotes. All right. It's nice to use quotes if they're not in the transcript, and it won't be able to do that. But if they are, great. Just depends on the questions that are asked. So it says, great, I'll do that. Would you like me to draft an example? I'm going to say no. We'll do that later. I have more instruction for you. I'm going to let it respond, and then I'm going to put in my instruction. It's going to say, great, let me know. All right, so I want it to not use any information from its LLM, just use my content. I also want it to mirror in language, tone, and length the sample stories I give it. So I'm going to upload 6 stories that the organization already has in the knowledge base, and then I want it to crank out ones a little bit longer. Those are all like just a paragraph or two. I want 2 to 3 paragraph ones. So let's see if it can include that in its instruction. It's updating. I'm just pulling my other document over to be able to share with you guys. Okay, so let's go in and look at the instructions. It says, this GPT assists in crafting concise and engaging success stories from interviews conducted by a communication manager. That's what we want. It tailors the narrative to reflect the values and mission. The best it can do is just from the stories it already has from us, so I could always edit that out. But we'll leave it. Success stories are crafted to mirror the language, tone, and length of the sample stories provided without adding information. Follow an arc, 2 to 3 paragraphs, use quotes. Professional yet approachable. I love it. So now let's upload a file. So I've got a file that I'm going to upload now to it, which is some success stories from this organization, Agave. And let's see if I can show them to you really quick. So here they are. These are some examples for it. They're all legal programs supporting migrants, permanent residency, asylum seekers, citizenship, but it gives it something to base its responses on, which is always a good practice. So now that we've got it, we could just preview it here and test it out, but I'm just going to go ahead and create it, and we're going to interact with it now. So this takes just a second to create. We can share the link with our colleagues if they want to be able to use it. And it's ready to view. So now, like I said, I'm going to upload an interview because that's how this is designed. Turn this interview into a 2-paragraph success story. And it already knows what that means, so I have no prompting to do. we can just reuse this over and over again. So what I've got here is a couple sample success stories. Um, or not, sorry, interviews with a communication manager and a legal aid worker. Just for fun, I had the legal aid workers bilingual, and so the communication manager is asking in English, but the legal aid worker is responding in Spanish, which is their preferred language. Most of the text is the legal aid worker's response, but the communication manager is just asking some guiding questions to reveal different elements about the story, right? How did she find out about agave? Were there any obstacles? How did you support her? Did she ever feel like giving up? What changed after that? How's her life now? What makes her journey stand out? And so I've got another example. We're just going to do one right now, but let's just take this interview that was recorded and had AI transcribe, and we're just going to copy and paste it right here into the GPT that we created. Put a little close quote on there and hit send, and let's see what the story is that it comes up with. So the success story is Teresa's resilience shines through. And it's two kind of long paragraphs. We can make those shorter if we wanted just by prompting it. Let's see how it sounds. Teresa's journey to safety and stability is a testament to her unwavering resilience and comprehensive support provided by Agave Health Partners. Fleeing violence in El Salvador, Teresa arrived in the U.S. scared and uncertain. Initially hesitant to seek help due to prior negative legal experience, she was encouraged by a relative to approach Agave. When she first visited, she carried a disorganized stack of papers, unsure what was relevant to her case. Agave's team listened to her story and quickly identified that she could qualify for political asylum. With a looming deadline, the team worked tirelessly to prepare her case, addressing numerous obstacles, including insufficient evidence, financial constraints, and the need to include her minor son in the application. The journey was far from easy, especially when her initial asylum application was rejected. Teresa, deeply discouraged, considered giving up. However, Agave's team reassured her and filed an appeal with additional evidence. Their persistence paid off when a judge ultimately granted Teresa asylum. Today, Teresa has a stable job, attends English classes, and takes pride in her son's academic aspirations. She even supports others in her church community facing similar struggles. Teresa's story reminds us of the transformative power of hope and access to holistic support, shared her legal advocate. So it's a really nice success story. Took almost no time to produce, as would any other interview, because as long as the questions, pull out the details that are essential to having an arc of a story, then it's going to quickly take that based on the best practices that we put in, which we could modify if we wanted it to look differently, and it can crank out stories with a minimal effort. So I hope you like that use case. A That was one that I just kind of randomly came upon. I was working with a client on some grant writing use cases and started talking about their process for success stories and how challenging it was. And so we built that, and I love it. That's one of my favorites. It's created just some very cool success stories without a lot of work. Um, okay, so I'm gonna share my slide again. Um, yeah, let me see. I'm kind of toggling between two things to try and keep this moving. Okay, so for resource development, I've got examples both for letter of interest and grant writing. I think they probably will take about 9 minutes each, which takes us awfully close to the time. So I am able to field questions in the chat while we listen if people have questions. Or if you'd like time at the end, I could just do one of these two and not do the other one. Blossom, what do you think?
Let's do one or the other and leave time for questions.
Okay, let's do that. So I think let's do the grant writing one. I know that's something that people have a lot of interest in likely. Just very briefly, the letter of interest one, or letter of inquiry, sorry, that's what I meant to call it, is around building a GPT with a knowledge base of a specific organization, and giving it those details, and then coaching it on best practices around writing letters so that it can create letters. Actually, I think I have a slide for it. I should just go to the next slide, and we won't watch it, but you'll just.
We're not seeing your screen.
Oh, you're not seeing my screen? Oh, thank you for saying that. There's just like one more button I have to hit, which is share after I've already clicked on the screen. Okay, so these are a few resource development use cases, right? And the letter of interest and grant writing are the two I was prepared to present today, but we're just gonna do issues. Advancing the slide. There we go. The letter of inquiry is to write letters, have correspondences that are authentic, that are based on your language, and your tone and your content, and then using that content to send correspondences to potential corporate donor. In the example, it was, inviting somebody to coffee that's a bank executive that, there's an affiliation with and you're interested in a sponsorship, or a local family foundation that they have invite only applications. And then the third was a wealthy individual or somebody with a lot of capacity in the community, and creating a tailored letter to them. And in all three cases, they look like letters you would write. I mean, that's the whole point. It is a letter you would write. AI is a tool to get the same product. That's the goal, is that you get the same product. You just don't spend an hour writing the letter. You prompt it, custom GPT you've built, and then you can see it. And I'd be happy just to send that 10-minute video if anybody would like to see it. So let's go on to grant writing. This one is a little bit more robust in terms of some of the functionality, and it gets a little bit more technical, but it's also what allows you to see the capabilities, right? Because the more advanced you get in some of the prompting and the way you set it up, the more just utility you get out of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that one in 1.25 speed. What did you guys think about the 1.25 speed? Did that work okay? Everybody's quiet today.
We're giving you thumbs up.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so we're gonna do the fifth one on grant writing. And I'm gonna pull it over, do it at 1.25 speed and hit go. And I'm gonna hit all of the share buttons this time, that one and that one, so you guys can see it. All right, so we're gonna do 1.25. That'll take about 9 minutes, and that'll give us still almost 10 minutes to left. I've just got a slide or two, and we've got questions, but we can just focus on questions. I'm gonna create a GPT that's gonna help us to prepare grants. This one is the most technical of the GPTs. You guys are hearing the same thing I'm hearing?
Yep.
Fuzzy?
Fuzzy.
Today, and I'm not even going to be able to show you all of the technical aspects, but I just want you to really be able to see. I'm going to have to just do the normal speed, guys. I know you guys don't mind a little bit of toggling, but I wish for our friends, I guess our friends that are watching a recording, they can just zoom through this. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. Leverage existing materials to create strong draft grant proposals that meet the unique elements of each specific grantor, right? Does it sometimes feel like that? Look at that puzzle. A grantor wants this, that, and the other information. You have it all, but it's always different pieces, it seems like, that you need for different grants. We're going to do create a GPT that's going to help us to prepare grants. This one is the most technical of the GPTs that we have done today, and I'm not even going to be able to show you all of the technical aspects, but I just want you to really be able to see the capabilities of this tool and why it's important to continue to learn so that you can leverage them and be ahead of the curve. So we're going to go ahead and create a GPT. I have created prompts to, like in all of the others, to kind of accelerate the pace in which we can do that. One thing I do want to say is that, like in this one, since it's a bit more technical, you'll see my prompt. It's kind of long. I actually, in a separate window of GPT, played around and iterated it to get the prompt the way I wanted. I just took a few minutes to have it help me. You can always have it help you. So imagine you're a skilled nonprofit grant writer and a GPT specialist. Your mission is to create a GPT model that exclusively relies on provided information, program boilerplate information for Agave's counseling program. Your output must mirror the boilerplate language, be clear, accurate, consistent, no external information from LLM. I don't want a profile picture. just don't want to take the time right now. So let's get started in building the instructions for our GPT. So what should we call it? Agave Grant Writer sounds great. It should skip the profile picture. All right, what do you want to do next? So, let's go into configure and see that it's already got the instructions going, right? It's a skilled nonprofit grant writer, relies entirely on boilerplate, no LLM, must be aligned. So it's a good start. Let's keep going with it. And so I'm going to say keep all of your current instructions, because I want to make sure we keep those and don't write over them. And please incorporate into them that I've provided you with specific tags within the boilerplate document in your knowledge base to guide you. Basically, because I'm uploading a 17-page document, it's a lot of information, and it can scan through it and give pretty good results, which I'll show you. But using the tags, I can also prompt it to focus in certain areas when I want to. So that's what I'm going to do. Tell me when it's ready for me to give it the tags. I could have probably done it all at once, but I'm just breaking this into pieces. It's always good to break it into pieces. It just makes it more manageable for the GPT and for you. Okay, so it's got that updated and it's ready for the tags. So I'm going to give the tags. I said that they were denoted in brackets. So these are tags with brief descriptions. These are the 16 different sections of the boilerplate that I showed you previously. And so it's going to update the GPT with that. Remember I said in the LOI builder when we built that a lot of the information wasn't relevant for that GPT. It didn't hurt to have it in there, but it is relevant. It's all relevant for this one, and most of it would be relevant for some communications and marketing GPTs as well. Okay, so now they're incorporated, so we're going to go to configure and we're going to see what it says. It's a skilled nonprofit grant writer, entirely on the boilerplate. Language and tone matches, right? Because we want it to be authentic in its sound and be something we would have written, just we saved a lot of time. And then we also have that we can tag it with brief descriptions. This has brief descriptions along with the tags. And so now we've got a good set of instructions. It's not perfect, but for our needs today, it's going to do just great. So I do want to point out that less is more sometimes in the instructions, because if you give it too much information, it's going to not know where to go, and so you just want to be as clear and concise as possible. The instructions does actually allow for an 8,000 character limit, but that's a lot of information. Also, in the in the knowledge base, uploading the documents, which we're going to go ahead and upload the boilerplate document. I'm just going to show it to you again one more time. I showed it to you earlier. It's this 17-page document that goes over the program description, history, need, evidence base, partners, so many things. So I talk about that document in the LOI one that we skipped over. It's been such a useful document, is creating a boilerplate either for an organization or for programs that's just very detailed. That's information that you put in it's information from your annual report, information from your strategic plan, information from grants that you're writing. If you have that in one place in a boilerplate, then you have really good information that can be used over and over again for a lot of purposes, not just for writing grants. I mean, it has a lot of communication uses as well. And so it does take some time to build that document, but that's what I'm using as like the primary knowledge base document, so that it's really well informed on this counseling program. And it's going to make it so that it's very robust in the way it can support me with grants. I'm going to do create a GPT that's going to help us to prepare grants. See. Yeah, that's right. I dragged it over. There it is. There's so many things. So we're going to upload that. And it also has the ability to upload up to 20 files. And so that's a lot of files. So you have to be very explicit if you're uploading very many files. About naming conventions and being able to, again, use tags is helpful. Honestly, when I do build these, I do have a set of other documents that I routinely include for an organization. That's information that grantors want to know, right? So we want to put every piece of information that we have that we know grantors want to know in the GPT. That includes mission, vision, values, a copy of the most recent 990, most recent audited financials, this year's budget, the list of board members, things of that nature. All right, I think we've got our GPT ready, so I should hit create while I was talking, because it's going to take a second. But we're just about ready to start interacting with it, so I've got some prompts I'm going to give it. And they're based on things that you would have a grantor request, right? One of the challenges with grant writing is grantors are always asking for content just a little different, right? Combining these two elements or hitting this character limit. And that's what's tedious and takes a lot of time. We have the content, we know what we're doing, but writing it to meet the grantor's needs, the same is true with reporting, not just with grant writing, is very tedious. Also, I was going to mention that the GPT doesn't read in words or characters, it reads in tokens, and so it actually has trouble like hitting an exact word number. So what we're going to do is give it a range, very tight ranges, but it just helps it to be successful. So these are questions that a grantor might ask. So a section of a grant, write a 450 to 500 character statement, the limit's 500 in this grant, that focuses on project description but also touches on program history. At the end of the statement, tell me how many characters it is. So that's 2 sections. I didn't tag them, but it's going to search the whole document, it's going to find it, and it's going to do it. So here you can see 499 characters. And it does talk about the history founded in, so it provides free trauma-informed mental health services to underserved communities, founded to serve immigrant and low-income populations. It initially operated in Albuquerque schools and expanded to support domestic violence. Today, we do this. So it's a good overview. It touches on the history. You can edit it, you can put it in Canvas and edit it, you can continue to prompt, but that is a really good first shot as far as a response. Now let's try another one. So write 100 to 150 word need for project that's data heavy, focused on pulling information from community need. So this is a data section. They want to know what the need in the community is. We don't have a lot of space, so we want to be really clear about what the need is and concise. Okay, I was going to say that's not a lot of data, but then there's a few more data points later on. The need is underscored by significant disparities. 50% of adults and youth do not receive it. It mentions the barriers, additional hurdles including cultural stigma, rural communities affected, difficulties accessing care, 50%, discomfort in discussing. Again, you can edit it, but it's a very strong statement that fits the character limits and was done very quick, 149 words. So now let's do a third one, some bullets in the middle. And I like it. I got it. Okay, I mean, I love some of these. This is asking it to talk about the services, and it has them bulleted in some text, in some narrative. I really like the other examples, but we're running out of time, so I shouldn't continue. I want to make sure we get time for at least a few questions. I do want to just really quickly share with you that I am going to provide you guys with some information on data privacy and security that I can send out, as well as a draft AI policy. And then I also have in the slide deck a number of resources that I found really helpful that I think that you could find some really good learnings with. So let's open it up for questions. I know that Blossom also wants to take a minute before we close.
I think we had a question of if we hear somebody says, "Oh, I would never use AI for grant writing," or "I would never use it for something." What's maybe some common hesitations that you hear from people who don't want to use AI, and maybe why that is?
I mean, I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is I haven't run into any grantors that are bothered by it, as long as it's authentic. You know, I think it's all about authenticity, and that's what makes it a tool and it being really yours. But in terms of people that are wary of it, I mean, it's changing so quickly, and it takes time and energy, you know? Like, we're already busy, and so it's one of those things that I think it's like there's you always have like where urgent you know, there's always times where the urgent you know, takes um you know, is you have things that are urgent and you have things that are important. I actually I believe this is one of the things that's important, even if it doesn't feel as urgent. I don't know if that fully answers your question, but it's people have different personalities, and some people are early adopters, and other people want to kind of wait and see, you know. It is changing fast, and so you might be able to just jump on the bandwagon on the 15th generation if you wait a little while, but you also could be left behind.
Hey Tim, nothing specific to ask other than I'm realizing how much I don't know that I don't know. Um, so I appreciate the time here. I've got a lot of ideas that I need to explore. So appreciate you, good sir.
Thanks, Ben. It's good to see you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot that I'm learning. I mean, there's functionality within ChatGPT. I mentioned Canvas, but I didn't show it to you. There's just a brand new feature where you can in a response in a chat, you can start to edit and prompt that chat. You can say, I want it longer. You can say, I want to change the reading level. And that's within a response that it's giving you, not a prompt. Um, there's just added functionality one of the documents I had there was the 12 days of open AI, and that was over the holidays. They like released something every day for 12 days. That was
Mm.
pretty significant, you know.
So yesterday, Tim, I was at a mastermind and we were talking, the panel was talking about AI. And one of the things that came up was uh, when, you know, how we're using it is we're doing analysis of client needs, specifically organizational capacity and where there's gaps and things like that. So uh, someone had asked the question, do you have explicit permission from the nonprofit to put their data into the chat GPT? And so my question really is around, if you have a paid subscription, then does that put the bumpers necessary that it doesn't become an issue?
It doesn't, no, actually. And that's one of the two things that I'm going to send to the participants, because if you have any level above the plus account, which is the team's account, so if you more than two people in your organization have it, then all of a sudden it comes with their full like security profile that they provide. But if you're a plus account, your stuff could leak out unless you go through very specific protocols. There's basically hoops that you have to go through, several of them, to ensure if you're on a plus account that your data is protected. And so like when I work with a client, I mean, that's something that I support them with, as well as having security for the data that I'm using. So there are, and then also, I'm not putting in any really, there's no sensitive data that I'm using that's highly sensitive, even though those protocols are in place.
Well, thank you so much, Tim, for your expertise. You'll get a follow-up email that includes the copy of the recording and some other resources, so you can contact him and access his consulting services if that is something that interests you or your organization. Um, I thank you for joining us today. Our session next month, I believe, is about Fund Development Strategy with Blossom is one of our presenters, along with Roma Bose. It's February 13th, the same time, 9:30 Mountain Time. And so we hope to see you there. I'm going to launch a quick one question poll that we do at the end of every session, just to tell us what you learned in this session on your way out. Thank you very much.